Hello and welcome to the ongoing AS and A-level Python series, and in this episode we are going to be looking at loops, which basically are the iteration constructs in any programming language. So as one of the most basic functions in programming, loops are an important piece to nearly every programming language. Loops rather enable developers to set certain portions of their code to repeat through a number of iterations or loops, which are referred to as iterations, of course, right? So this particular episode, rather, not topic, as I had commented right here. Let me fix that. So this particular episode covers the use of different types of loops that come with Python. So as it happens, Python only has two loop constructs, right? We have the for loop and we have the while loop. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with the while loop, because I think it's the simplest in a manner of speaking. Then we'll actually go ahead and look at the for loop and why I'm saying it's not as simple as a while loop. So in order for us to actually start using the loop, the while loop, let's actually have a counter variable. Then we are going to set this one to 0 initially. Then we're actually going to have maybe a variable called flag, and we are saying it to we're going to set it to true, right? And we are going to then have our loop construct. So we are going to say while then the condition that we want to use in this case, maybe we want to just create a program that's going to output numbers from 1 to 10. So we are saying while counter is less than or equal to 10, right? We want to simply print actually we need to have counter right there, that's why I'm getting that squiggly red line. So we are saying while counter is less than or equal to 10, we simply want to print what? We simply want to print counter. Then maybe let's just change this to 1 so that we start counting from 1, not 0. Then we are simply going to increment counter by 1 every time. So we're going to say counter is equal to counter plus 1. All right. Then in the meantime, I don't think we actually need this flag, so I'm just going to comment it out because we already have an exit condition, right? So the exit condition is actually it's actually specified right here at the loop header, where we said while counter is less than or equal to 10. So that's what we want to do. So let's just go ahead and maybe let me just clear out the console. Then let me just run the loops script. So as you would expect, we are going to get what? The numbers 1 through 10 are printed down there in the console. Simple enough. Then let's move on to look at the for loop, right? So we're done with the while loop right here. So let me just go ahead and comment everything out on this section, then collapse the terminal. Then we can just move on to look at the for loop. So the for loop is quite there's two ways with which you can use a for loop. So let me actually go ahead and create a list of numbers. So I'm going to have numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 then 10. So I have the numbers 1 through 10, right? And I simply want to output each one of these numbers. So the way you can use a for loop is to type the for keyword. Then you are going to type a temporary variable that's going to hold the current element inside of the list. So we are saying for num, right, in. So we make use of the in keyword in Python whenever we're making use of the for loop. So we are saying in numbers, which is the list of numbers. So we simply want to print what? Simply want to print the current number. So what the for loop is actually going to do in this case is that it's actually going to take the first element that is inside of the numbers loop, the numbers list, sorry, and it's actually going to store it inside of this num variable right here, right? Then this num variable is then going to be printed. Then it moves on to the next element, which is 2. Then it puts 2 inside of the num variable. Then it prints 2. Then after that, it moves on to 3, puts 3 inside of the num variable. Then it outputs 3, and so forth and so on, all the way until it gets to 10. So let's actually go ahead and run this script. And again, you should see that the output is just as before, right? We have the numbers 1 through 10. All right. Now, the for loop now has an alternative format that you can actually assume. And this one actually employs what we call the range function, which comes built into Python. So the range function works like this. So let me just, maybe after outputting these numbers, I can just print counting to 10 using the range function. I can just put maybe parentheses right here to show that it is a function. Then what we do in this instance is that we are going to say for, I'm just going to use x as the temporary variable name. It doesn't really have to be anything complicated. So we are going to say for x, for an element x in the range from 1 to 11, right? I simply want to output the current value of x. So now the reason why we actually put 11 right here is that the range function, the way it works, let me just see if I can hover over the range function. You should actually see the documentation right here. So let me see if what I want to explain is being described right here. I think it's the way it's explaining it is quite complicated. Maybe let me just show you. I think it's much easier if I just show you what it does. So let's just go ahead and run the script. So you realize that we get what initially the first output that comes out is for this particular loop, right, whereby we're using the numbers list right here from line 12 to line 15. So this is the output that you see from up to this point. Then we have a print statement, and we simply want to print counting to 10 using the range function, right? So after we print this line, we're actually now doing the same, we are solving the same problem, right? Counting from 1 to 10. But this time around, instead of having to define a list beforehand, we are just making use of the range function. So what the range function does is that it takes two parameters, the start value and the end value, but the end value is always going to be less 1. So if you wanted to print the numbers from 1 to 10, we actually have to say 11 minus 1, which is 10, right? So that's how it works. Otherwise, if you were to put 10 right here, it would simply output the values from what? From 1 to 9. So that's how you can actually make use of the range function. Then let's actually move on to look at three other keywords that are typically used with what? That are typically used with loops in Python. So let's suppose that we wanted to output the numbers the odd numbers between 1 and maybe let's say 1 and odd numbers between 1 and 15 inclusive, right? So making use of the range function, you know that we need to end at 16, right? Because it's always going to be n minus 1. Then what we want to do is we simply want to check if the number y divided by 2 gives us a value of what? It doesn't leave a remainder basically. So maybe actually what I need to do is I need to say if y modulo 2, so maybe I could just use my brackets, span up, just making use of brackets. So if y modulo 2 is equal to 0, right, then I simply want to print what? I simply want to print y. Otherwise, I'm actually going to skip everything right there. Then let's just go ahead and run this code. Let's clear out the console, then run that, and you realize that we are going to get only the even numbers, right? So we are saying 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So we get the even numbers. But remember, when we defined the problem, we said we wanted to print all the odd numbers between 1 and 15 inclusive. So this means that the way we can actually go about this is to make use of the continue keyword in Python, right? So continue basically is going to just allow us to skip or to continue or to skip elements, as it were, and ignore them. So what we are doing in this case, after we continue, we're just going to go ahead and print y, right? then coming down back to the console, clearing out the screen, then running the script one more time, you realize that you are going to get what? The odd numbers between 1 and 15 inclusive. So the way this the continue keyword works is this. When the loop starts, right, it's actually going to check if the first number or the first element, which is 1, if we divide 1 by 2, remember how the modulo operator works. If you've forgotten, I encourage you to go back and watch the episode on operators, right? So it's going to check if we divide the current value by 2 and get a remainder of 0. So if you divide any number by 2 and get a remainder of 0, that technically means that value is actually what? An even number. So we are making use of the continue keyword to skip over any even number, and we are simply going to go ahead and print what and output the odd numbers as it were in this case. So that's how you can actually make use of what of the continue keyword to maybe in this particular case output odd numbers between 1 and 15 inclusive. Then let's actually go ahead and let me just comment this code out. Let's actually go ahead and actually demonstrate the other keyword that I want to show you, which is the break keyword. So I'm just going to go ahead and uncomment the numbers list that we defined earlier. Then I'm going to say for I, which is basically the temporary element variable that's going to evoke the current element. So we are saying for I in let's just say in numbers, right? We simply want to check. So in this case we are searching for a particular number. So let's actually say search equal to let's say maybe we are searching for the number 7, right? So we say if I is equal to search, right, then we can just break out of the loop, is it? Then we can just output we can just break out of the loop. Then we just print, actually maybe what you can do is within the loop let's actually just print search, right? Then let me just go ahead and run this code and show you what's going on. Alright, so I'm getting a bunch of 7s right there. That's not what I intended to do, but no, that's fine, still it's okay. So if the value has been found, right, let's actually just take this print and put it let's take it outside of the loop as it were. So we can then just output right here. We can say found element search, right? Then if we go ahead and run this, you'd realize that it's going to tell us that we found the element what? The element 7, is it? So maybe let's say we wanted to search for a particular item inside of the list. We would actually need to make use of a flag, is it? So the flag is actually going to be the status of found. So maybe what I can do is I'm going to set found to true, rather false initially, right? Then what I do in this case now is I'm actually going to say if the current item matches the search item, we are going to set what? Found to true, is it? Then what I can do inside of here, after breaking out of the loop, since found is a global variable, I hope this works the way I intended to. So after the loop, I'm actually going to say if found, right, then I'm going to print found element search, else I'm going to say print unable to locate specified item, right? So let's actually just go ahead and clear out the console, then run that script. Oh, right. So found element 7, right, because this particular element is actually in there. All right, so maybe let's change the search item to something like 45. Save and run. save and run, and you are going to see that it says that we are unable to locate the specified item, right? So that's how the break keyword works. So whenever the search item has been found, right, it's actually going to break outside of the loop. Then this logic from line 32 to line 35 is actually going to be executed depending on the status of found. So in the case whereby we had 7 initially, if you remember that when we had the search value to 7, we actually broke out of the loop and went on to run this particular piece of code where we say that found element what search is it, and we are basing this on the status of found. So found, in the event that we find the particular search item, we say we are going to set found to what, to true. So we are saying if true, we want to print this. Otherwise, if it's false, we are going to print that right there. So yeah, that's the second keyword that pertains to loops that I wanted to show you. Then the final word that I wanted to demonstrate how it works is the pass keyword. So we are going to have for I, maybe let's I used I before, maybe let's say for A in range, then maybe let's say 1 to 1000 and 1, maybe we want to we're just going to pass the range just like that. So the keyword is actually pass, right? So what this does is this, nothing, right? It does nothing. So the pass keyword is basically going to be used in cases whereby you do not wish to execute anything inside of a loop, right? Maybe you are not really sure about the current state maybe of certain variables, right? So you are going to create your loop, but for that particular loop, since you do not it's reliant on the state of certain variables, and those variables have not been set in that case, you can just use the pass keyword to ignore a loop, as it were. So nothing is actually going to happen whenever you use the pass keyword. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this tutorial. So remember, we looked at the while loop, we looked at the for loop, and we also looked at the other keywords that you can always use with either the for or the while loop. So we have the continue keyword, we have the break keyword, and we have the pass keywords. So that's just about it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.